All right.
What's that?
Okay, we can start.
Okay, just a moment. Please stand by.
How does this start again? Okie dokie, Eric.
Okay, thank you. I have my devices rolling, and to chair, the floor is yours.
All right, hello. Today is June 3rd, 2021, Thursday, and this is the Harbor Advisory Board. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Lori, can you do roll call, please?
Sure. Member Vale,
Present.
Member Hanson,
Here.
Member Dowdy,
Here.
Member Witkowski.
Present.
Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did.
Member Myason and Member O'Brien. And you have a quorum.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Lori. Let's take a moment of silence. And then we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Lori, you got the flag? No? All right, there we go. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Everybody else can join in. To the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Forget part. All right. So our next thing will be announcements. So one thing that we have right off the bat is we have a new member, Mary Witkowski from Marine Oriented Business. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit more and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. I was born and raised in San Luis Obispo originally, but left the area to attend Annapolis on the East Coast and served active duty for a bit. After that, my husband and I decided we wanted to raise a family and couldn't do that the way we wanted while both serving on active duty. So then we started working in tech in the Bay Area. And then during COVID, kind of decided that we wanted to come back to the Central Coast to plant roots. So we've moved to the area, and I started reading the city newsletters and wanted to get involved. And yeah, hopefully this is the way I can do it.
Wonderful. We're glad to have you. Thank you so much for taking your time
Welcome.
to be with us. Okay, so let's go to another board member and see if there's any announcements that Jean Dowdy, would you like to?
Sure. Last week we had some pretty good tidal changes and lots of eelgrass broke roost in the back bay. So we had lots of eelgrass floating in the bay. There has been some halibut caught in the bay itself, which is kind of nice to see guys drifting and catching halibut. Other than that, it's springtime, wind, now we're getting fog. So that's where we're at.
All right, great, thank you. All right, board member Vale.
I've just been trying to get oriented to the Boatyard business, which is that going to come up later, or shall I speak to it now? Did you catch that?
Okay, yeah. We had another panelist join us. Guayacan 79. Do we know who that is?
Yeah, that's Lynn.
That's Lynn?
Yeah.
Okay, Lynn, can you hear us?
I'm just promoting Lynn to panelist, so she is now on the panelist side and should be able to have video and be able to speak.
All right.
Lynn, are you there?
Now,
There we go.
Yay. All right, Lynn, thanks for joining us. We're going to each member and asking them for any announcements or anything that they would like to bring forth to the meeting.
yes. My turn?
Yes, it is your turn.
Okay. One thing I do want to announce is that sailing lessons will be starting up fairly soon. And if anybody's interested in learning how to sail, lessons are given at the Morro Bay Yacht Club for both adults and for children. You can sign up by going online to by emailing to mbyc.lessons@gmail.com.
All right, wonderful.
I do have something, Cherise.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, this is sort of like the squeaky wheel, I guess, but my partner informs me, Miss Patty, informs me that on some of the Facebook websites regarding Morro Bay and Los Osos, there is chatter about trash. And I just want to register that because I run into it in the middle of the Embarcadero, down by windows in the water. And actually, me and another fellow cleaned some up a couple of Sundays ago. I know that this situation is being dealt with. I know that they're trying to get better at it. But you can't just blame it on the tourists if the cans are full. End of my relaying complaints.
All right. Thank you for that. Okay, so then it goes to possibly, we don't have our liaison with us tonight. Is that correct?
Don't see her.
Dawn Addis. She possibly,
Yeah, she's there. She's in the attendees.
okay, well, this is the opportunity to ask her if she has any announcements or things that she wants to mention at this time.
I'm sorry, I see Dawn Addis with her hand up. Is that?
Yes, exactly. So it would be her opportunity right now to announce.
Yes.
Okay, Dawn, you are unmuted.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you, so to speak, on Zoom. And my main announcement is that on June 7th, I will have State Senator John Laird with me on Afternoons with Addis. So that's at 5:30 p.m. And you can access the Zoom link either by signing up for my email at dawnaddis.org or finding me on Facebook at Dawn Addis City Council. But it's a good opportunity to interact with our state senator. And I think in terms of council updates, Eric usually gives you an update through the staff lens, so I don't want to step on toes there. But I hope to see all of you on Monday the 7th.
Hey, Dawn, is it possible for Eric to arrange a little boat tour? That's always informative.
I have been on a boat tour. I would be happy to go on another boat tour, especially if anything has changed. But I did go on one before I ran for council and met extensively with Eric. I think we met for a couple of hours and would be happy to do something like that again at, on Eric's schedule and given his staff time. I know we're heading into a very busy summer for the Harbor Patrol. So I would never say no to that offer, but I also don't want to impinge on staff time as we're coming into another busy summer season.
Okay, I just think it's really informative that our state senators see the Morro Bay from the water side.
Oh, in terms of the state senator, John Laird, he will be with me via Zoom. So he will not be here in person on
That's too
June
bad.
7th. He'll be here on the via the computer. So you're welcome to jump on to the event with us and make that offer to him that he come out and tour. I'll defer to Eric, but I believe the senator has definitely toured Morro Bay before. I could be wrong, and I'm sure he would love another invite.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Dawn, for that. And we do not have any presentations, correct, Eric, at this time?
Correct. Nothing.
Okay. All right.
Hey,
Moving-
Mary, do you have anything you want to get off your chest?
Me?
Yeah,
Does it have to relate to anything?
yeah. Anything you
Oh, it
want to
doesn't. I guess one thing that I had written down to talk about later was as we're heading into kind of like busy summer season, one thing that's on my mind is like the budget and which things like trash collection might scale exponentially with the number of tourists or people that we have, and like which expenses scale, like supplies for trash, people to collect the trash. And so I really love to model that data to kind of predict like the growth over time for the budget. But I guess it would just be ahead of the season, what processes do we need to put in place to ensure that we're collecting the right data in order to like use it the way we want? Sorry, dog.
I think she could be invited onto the finance committee and maybe review this with Eric, as Charisse and I did.
Right, I think that would be a great asset to the budget. We can talk about that. Eric, can we talk about that during, what is it, B2? And because am I the chair or is Chris the chair on that?
You are.
Chris is, but you trying to give it to Charisse?
Yes.
Well, you guys can arm wrestle over it. Whoever's the chair, Mary can join that committee, that ad hoc committee, I think at any time. We can't really use that as a vehicle at this meeting to start talking about, Mary's, the metrics she wants to go into, make a big discussion item out of it because it's not agendized.
Right,
But it's certainly
I'm
a good
just
time to
thinking
get on the
that I
committee.
could put her on and I could step down as long as I'm not the chair, because that would be an issue, correct?
Well, so I guess we figure out who's chair of the committee first, and decide that.
Okay,
All right, Charisse, I'll be the chair.
okay,
You can step down. And then the next person who wants to be on the committee, we'll make them chair and I'll step down.
okay,
Mary sounds
All
like she's got an acumen for this in the first place.
okay, you got it. Okay, all right,
Wow,
moving.
Mary, didn't see that bus coming, did you?
Oh, I just jumped right in front of it. Happy to.
All right, perfect. Okay, with that, I will conclude our announcements and presentations and move into the general public comment period. And I'm going to say a little part about that, that we're meeting via Zoom issued by Governor Newsom. And so this is going to be conducted telephonically. So please be advised that pursuant to the executive order and to ensure the health and safety of the public by limiting human contact that could spread COVID-19 virus, the Veterans Hall will not be open for this meeting. So Anthony, do we have anybody in the queue that has a raised hand, or if they do, now's the time to raise your hand
Thank you.
for public comment.
Oh, thank you, Chair Hansen. I do not see any raised hands. Actually, Cal Myers just raised his hand. Let me go ahead and
So I'm opening public comment and let's ask Cal Myers if he would.
okay, Cal, you are unmuted.
Hi, hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, my name's Cal Myers. Actually happy to let you guys know that I have applied to become part of the Harbor Advisory Board. I've been watching you guys in Zoom, the reruns on Zoom for quite some time. Actually, it's one of those happy accidents. It was one of the ones I first looked at, but at the time there wasn't an open position that was appropriate. I think it was a commercial fishing I think that Mary has, and it wasn't really my lane. But the recreational boating has become available. I talked to Don, recommended that I apply for that. So I'm pretty excited. I'll find out more next week, but I'll be listening in. Avid sailor, like water sports. I know you guys take care of the RV stuff. And there I have my personal thoughts about that. I'll save those for another day. But I just wanted to say hi and enjoy listening in on this. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
All right, thank you, Cal, for that public comment. And Anthony, is there anybody else that has popped into our?
Thank you, Chair Hansen. I do not see any raised hands left in the queue.
Okay, thank you, Anthony.
Welcome.
With that, I will close public comment, and we look forward to seeing if we get Cal to be a part of our next meeting. We will not be having a meeting in July, so our next meeting will be in first Thursday in August. So next thing is the consent calendar. Is there anything that any member would like to what do I say, wants to pull within the consent calendar? Anyone?
I didn't see anything.
Hi, Jeremiah.
Hey, Eric, is the dredge finished?
Sorry for the tardiness. I was having so much fun at my job that I stayed late.
Nice. Okay, so we're not pulling anything from the consent calendar unless, Jean, you would like to pull the staff report in order to ask
Well,
that.
my question was to Eric, is the dredge finished?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so unless anybody says they have something in the next 2 seconds, I'm going to call for a motion. Motion to run items not pulled, request member pulling an item to provide their comments. And a vote, a roll call vote. Lori?
Motion, we accept the consent agenda.
Yes, okay, so do we have a motion from somebody to accept the consent agenda as is?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as is, yes.
I'll second it.
Perfect. All right, and Lori, do we need a roll call?
Yes, we do. Member O'Brien,
Yes.
Member Hanson,
Yes.
Member Dowdy,
Yes.
Member Vale,
Aye.
Member Witkowski,
Yes.
Member Meissen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Okay, so next items up are business items. And we will start with B1, which is the update from the Marine Services Facility Ad Hoc Committee on the committee's recent activities. So currently we have one member on that board, which is the chair, Chris Bale.
The rookie, yeah.
And would you like to mention anything new?
Yes.
An oral
Yes.
update, please.
I mean, it's not new news. Eric, in a meeting, hit on a little bit of this. I've talked to some other people about it. I've talked to some boatyard people in San Francisco that I did business with for years. And my point is that I believe from a pollution liability and other issues, we need a boatyard. It's horribly expensive. It's impossibly expensive. It's weighing the environmental concerns of not having one against the concerns of what you need to have one. And then where does the volume come from that supports a boatyard? So it throws us, in my mind, into this area of grants and pledges or tithes of some sort. Because I don't, from what I know about the city and budgets and income, I can't figure out where the money would come from to build it. And once it were there, where the staff funding would come from. Because even that, in terms of if we have a shipwright on duty, management of one sort or another might even be the same person, but how do we pay him? So I'm chewing on it, and it's too bad that we lost some of our board members to attrition because they have a big head start on me. But I've also talked to Bruce Marshall, who did one of the plans, if you will, years ago. Bruce has built boatyards and is now living back here in Morro Bay. Anyway, it's a quandary because every lovely little harbor should have one, but how do we get enough money to build it? And then how do we support it? It would seem when you talk to some people that there's not enough boats here for Morro Bay itself to create a volume of repairs and maintenance to keep everybody happy. So I'm still chewing on it. And anybody who wants to get involved with me on it, do so, because I'm coming from a retired Marine surveyor's perspective, very large boatyards in the Bay Area. And this would be a postage stamp by comparison. So if anybody has any input, jump on board. That'll do for tonight.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Chris. This is a committee, an ad hoc committee that is made up of one person who discusses it with staff. And so if anybody wanted to join him in that, I would ask you to get in contact with him, and you can be a part of this ad hoc committee too, as long as it's not more than 3, correct, Eric? Members. So 2 more people could, but 1 would be great.
Yeah, again, a maximum of 3
Right.
Harbor Advisory Board members. You could have other members of the public. That's one of the reasons we did ad hoc, so we could have some help from the
True.
outside.
Right. So yeah, Chris, since you're the chair of that one, you could find, or if anybody finds you, have them join into the ad hoc committee, and that could be something good for grants and other people that are interested. So let us know next time if there was any possibility of finding somebody else or
Okay.
more. That would be a real asset to you to get more understanding and more feet on the ground.
Yeah, frankly, I had not thought completely about somebody outside the harbor board. Mentioning it that way, some of the people I'm talking to might be interested in being non-HAB member, but ad hoc committee member. So I'll follow that up too.
Okay, wonderful.
Just want to throw this in. Both the federal and the state just put up money for loans, I believe, to improve, or grants. They put up money, so it's apparently a lot of it's going to be in grant form for ports around the United States that will be having wind energy off of their coasts. So in other words, and they earmarked it for improving infrastructure. So it's I just heard it yesterday from the state and probably a week ago on the federal end. So it's two separate pots. Anyways, just wanted to throw that in. It certainly sounds like something that possibly would qualify. And also our slips and docks and piers and what have you.
Mhm.
Right. One of the things that we discussed 2 or 3 meetings back is that the boatyard is, the ad hoc committee is not just for a boatyard situation, but any marine services that we can bring forward. So it could be a smaller scale version of some of the services that we really do need here for that kind of parts that the infrastructure
Sure.
needs.
Sure.
Eric, oh,
May
sorry.
I interject briefly, please, Sharice? I just wanted to mention that many years ago, there was a list created. Now, I don't know if we're still going on that list in Boatyard, a list of needs, and I don't think it was a very long list. But the Boatyard was number one, and that is how we got to this Boatyard situation to begin with, because that at that time, that is what everybody felt we needed. I would assume that the feelings are the same today. But number two on the list was a cold storage area facility. So, and that would naturally depend on grants. And we would probably, hopefully do it much like, if that was what it was going to be, much like the ice plant. You know, so the ice plant was $907,000 at that time, which equates to much more money than that nowadays. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know, I get carried away here. Wanted to let you know there was a list. I don't know if you still have to go by that list, but
Well,
there's a list somewhere.
here's a question. Since this is my first term and I'm, now in this all by myself, where is the list? Where is the historical paperwork on what we've done before? Now,
How about you talk to Lori, talk to staff and ask them if they can find that list. And then
Okay.
maybe the next time that we have a meeting, you can bring up that list and we can have a discussion, or we can have a board members say if they like the list the way that it is, have we taken care of anything, or if we want to add something. And then
Yeah.
that will help you take the list current.
Sure.
And so,
That's the answer I needed. Thank you.
Eric, did you want to add?
Yeah, just Jeremiah, I'm assuming you're referring to the needs assessment's not the right word. That's not what they called it, but what Henry did back in the early days of the quota fund when we had to put together the working harbor priority stuff through Henry. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I was, Eric. Yeah, that's right.
All right, where to find it?
That pile over there.
Not
There
the,
it is.
that's it.
That's amazing.
Well. City of Morro Bay Fishing Community Sustainability Plan. It's got, it's just got the list of stuff that were identified as priorities for commercial fishing port. So yeah, I can share that with you, Chris, no problem.
Okay. I'll be in touch.
Awesome. Good. Okay, so Jeremiah, do you have anything more to add? Because now's the time where I go around and ask board members if they have any questions of the.
No, I don't at this time. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do any other
Oh, wait a
members?
minute, hold on, I do. Yes, I don't know if this is gonna work, but so I was fortunate enough to get to review a history of Morro Bay, let's see, the title, Morro Bay, once the abalone capital of the world. And this is, let's see, there we go. There.
2 million pounds a year.
And what's that?
2 million pounds a year.
Yeah. So anyway, this will be available at the Maritime Museum. And it's absolutely incredible. It's about a half hour. I don't know what they're gonna charge for it, but I am gonna go down and purchase a bunch of them, send them to the grandkids. But very, very interesting, very historic. And for those who have been around a long time, there's some faces on there that you'll be really happy to see. And Henry Krebs
They're
was one of them.
infamous faces. Yeah.
Henry Krebs was one, but there was, Bill Pierce and Skinner Pierce. It goes on and on and on. But Henry was one of my favorites, anyways. But so anyway, Maritime Museum, everybody, get on and get a copy. Get them while they're hot here, because they might be famous by next year.
All right, thank you, Jeremiah.
May I add something to that?
Okay.
Lori Mather put this together, and it is brilliant. And they're trying to get a hold of the Bay Theater to do a fundraiser. The museum is, because it'll look really good on a big screen. Top-notch stuff, and the history is thorough. It ended up being like 39 minutes long, and so they're entering it in the SLO Film Festival for next year for a category of documentary. It's really good. Thanks.
All right.
Thank
So
you
we got,
very, very much. Sorry. Sorry.
it's all good. I'm
Thank
gonna
you
get. I
very
know people
much.
are gonna start getting mad at me for not whipping it up here. Okay, so I'm gonna take it that other members, Myson, you're good.
Yes.
Jane, you're good. Mary, you're good. And we're gonna move on to the next. There's nothing to vote on. We had our discussion, so we can move on to the next business item, correct? Eric, Lori?
Do you want to open up for public comment?
Oh, yes, thank you. I knew I was forgetting something. Okay, I'd like to, Anthony, do we have anybody in the queue? Either Cal with his, does he have his hand raised? Anybody else out there that we don't know?
Thank you, Chair Hansen. I do not see any raised hands in the queue.
Okay, so I'm going to close public comment on agenda item B1, and we are going to open up the next one, which is B2, and it is the update from the Finance and Budget Ad Hoc Committee on committee's recent activities. So, seeing as we're a little confused, possibly I'm the chair, but we did not meet this last period. Eric, do you have any update for the finance and budget?
No, the only real update, I guess I have an update, and the update is we're updating the capital spreadsheets and just constantly retuning and making sure those are accurate. Ron Reisner is still helping out on that, which is great, even though he's not on the Harvard Advisory Board. So we'll retruth those out and just make sure we got accurate numbers on there.
Will those be, oh wait, sorry, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yes, go for it.
Will those be shared out?
Yeah, I've got yes.
And one other question, I was looking at some of the budgets that had been reported previously, and they were kind of in PDF format and didn't like play nicely. You had to basically hand transfer all the numbers into a spreadsheet. And so I don't know, just something to consider for the future.
Okay.
All right, well, I think again, with this particular situation, we have two people. We can take one or more on from the HAB. And so if anyone is interested to talk to the chair of the Finance and Budget Ad Hoc Committee about getting on it. All right, So does anybody else on the board have any questions or points to discuss or questions to put forth to staff or otherwise?
Yeah, Charisse, maybe this is the time I might get it in here. I was so excited about showing the picture there. I left out Lori and Scott, who are responsible for it, of course, but Lori is a genius. She did just such a remarkable job, and I'll leave it at that. But Lori and Scott now, they're just terrific on it. So.
All right. And Lynn, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing now.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. And Jean, would you like to add anything?
No, I'm fine.
And Chris, we're good. Chris, would you like to add anything?
I'm resting.
Okay. All right. So at this time, I would like to open the floor for public comment. And Anthony, do we have anybody in the queue for public comment on the budget ad hoc committee?
Thank you, Chair Hansen. I do not see any raised hands in the queue.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. And so we will close public comment for this business item. And no discussion at this time. Unless anybody would like to have a discussion over this item. I don't see any raised hands, so can we have a roll call, or do we have a motion to accept as is, or do we?
Yes, no motion.
No, we don't need anything when there's no action on this.
All right, there's no action, and so do we need to have a roll call to, no? No roll call. Okay. All right, so we will move on to the next item, agenda item, which is B3, discussion of revenue opportunities and needs for the Harbor Fund. So, staff, would you like to present your report?
Staff would like to present their report. So as we know, revenue generation and being fiscally sustainable has been a thing for the city for quite a while now. The city's been working on budget deficits, not just with the Harbor Fund, but also with the general fund, and made some good progress over the last 5, 7, 8 years. And we're getting there. But there's still needs that we have in the Harbor Fund, although in next year's budget, the FY 21-22 budget, which is going to council, I believe, on June 22nd, the Harbor Fund is balanced with a slight surplus of about $95,000. It's about a $2 million budget. We've got a little bit of a surplus, but that's due in large part to some of the Measure Q and E money, the special sales tax measures, relieving our fund of some of our obligations and putting those off onto the measures money, and also on the cost recovery measures we've made with our fees, all of our various fees, slips, piers, moorings, liveaboards, all those different fees we collect. We've done a lot of cost recovery measures, and those are finally starting to bear fruit. So while our operating fund is balanced, we still have a huge deficit that we need to make up for all the capital needs, all the stuff that needs fixing and replacing. The new slips, the new docks, the harbor office maintenance, right? The list goes on. And it's pushing, $500,000 a year if amortized over the next 10 years, if we look at, when things should be replaced. So there's that huge deficit we're still trying to make up, and we're getting there. Our South T-Pier loan, this year's the last payment of that loan. So that's $135,000 less we're going to be paying out. So that'll help. Hopefully some of these PERS costs start coming down in the next few years. But we're still looking for additional revenue generating ideas. As you know, the council's goal number 1 is fiscal and economic sustainability. I think it has been for a couple goal cycles now. And one of the Harbor Advisory Board's work plans under that for the last few years has been research and bring back to council different revenue generating ideas. The RV program is an example of one of those. We brought to the HAB, looked at it, recommended to the council to move forward. It's enacted now, and we'll see where it goes. So this, I think, tonight is another exercise in sort of throwing some ideas, spaghetti against the wall, and see what people have for ideas. We'll review some of the initiatives we've already looked at that are sort of on the last couple of years list, and then move forward and see if there's any other new, I think we'll look at the old list, and if there's anything still usable off there that we either want to resurrect or have a little more initiative on. And then if there's anything new to come along, if anybody's got any new revenue generating ideas, I don't think tonight's the night to fully bear down on those and really, other than the decide whether or not we want to pursue them and recommend them to move forward on. We'll just kind of see where we end up going with ideas, and then those will probably fold into the goal setting activity, because I suspect that economic and fiscal sustainability is still going to remain the council's #1 goal. But should probably be any city's #1 goal forever. So we'll still be working under the goals, I suspect, for the economic and revenue opportunities. Anybody got any questions on that part of it? Okay,
Yeah,
so
Eric, just curious, have the federal or state government offered any money to any of the ports that you know of, to any of the ports that will be affected with the wind energy? So can you hear me? You can hear me?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
So
sure I
both
understood.
from the state and the Fed, I had read articles, on the internet, saying that in one of them a couple of weeks ago, Biden was giving money to the ports that would be affected by the wind situation, and for upgrades for infrastructure. And that was mentioned, and then the governor mentioned that yesterday.
I have not seen any
No.
tangible result of anything like that.
Because it sure sounded like we'd qualify.
So I'm going to use Jeremiah as an example. Not a bad example. I'm not. So that Jeremiah is probably a great kind of thing to throw into the mix in terms of, one of our past work plan items under this revenue generating goal was be as aggressive as you can and seek out grant opportunities. And so I think this kind of idea falls under that umbrella, seeking grant and other state or federal revenue generating opportunities, or even under the wind farm. The wind farm is currently under our goals work plan to pursue and support what we can do to see that process move forward and see wind farms established off the coast. And that could even fall under that as well. So you're getting a little, I guess I'm saying you're getting a little ahead of me, but that's a great idea.
Oh, okay. I was just curious if, I know you guys are on top of everything, Eric. I was certainly not insinuating that. I was just wondering if we had availed ourselves of any of these funds.
I haven't, like I said, I haven't seen anything tangible of that.
So Eric, would we have to contact state and federal, or would state and federal contact us?
We typically, a lot of the federal stuff, Greg Haas, who is Congressman Carvajal's main person here in San Luis Obispo County, most of the time I'll hear from Greg, and he'll say, hey, this revenue opportunity. Also our lobbyist back in Washington, D.C., that we go visit every year in March when we do our rounds, I usually hear from her as well. So we typically hear about it through those folks.
Okay.
We heard it through Greg at a meeting this morning, actually. So.
Okay, maybe he'll call me tomorrow. So I'm gonna go down the list of their past revenue generating opportunities that we looked at. I'm not going to go into great detail on them. I'll just probably a quick blurb and where they ended up, and that's probably our starting point for seeing which ones we want to move forward with or do more on, and then start going into looking at possible new revenue generation ideas. So the aquarium, as we know, the old aquarium is gone. The old Morro Aquarium under the Tylers is gone. We were pursuing Central Coast Aquarium to come in and rebuild that site. We ran that one about as far as we could. I think COVID eventually pretty much took that one off the list with Central Coast Aquarium, and they weren't able to fulfill their obligations in what they had said they're going to try and do for the city to move forward in a development process. Said I think COVID pretty much shut them down, so we're moving on with other plans right now on that lease site. Paid parking on or near the Embarcadero. A couple of years ago, the Harbor Advisory Board looked at that. We came up with a list of recommendations that said, if the city's ever going to pursue this, here's what you need to think about. That list is still alive and well, I think, and it can get fed into the process. The city recently commissioned a parking demand study, which we just had a meeting with the folks that put that together this morning and are working on next steps. And I suspect that will probably get filtered through the city's advisory bodies in the coming months and then eventually get to the city council. So that's a work in progress. For-profit events and activities being a revenue source for the city, meaning, the events that come onto city property and do things on beaches, like weddings, and some wedding planner plans a wedding on a beach and gets paid by the family to put that on. Should we be taking a cut of the wedding planner? We looked at that a while ago, and it just, to use one of my favorite sayings, I think we determined there just wasn't enough juice to be worth that squeeze, the amount of staff time involved. There's just not enough events and enough of that kind of critical mass to make that worthwhile. Concessionaires for basic beach and park needs or food trucks at the Rock. I think we discussed that. I think there was some support for it. There was some opposition to that. I don't think we ever got anything definitive on it. We never brought it to the council. We had somebody a couple of years ago propose to do that and was actually getting ready to do a license agreement, and they got out. So it's something we've not really pursued to any significant degree, so it's not ever gone anywhere. And next one, for-profit businesses operating on the waterfront or bay, and the example I use is boat bottom cleaners, but not in brick and mortar lease sites. So in other words, people that are working in the Tidelands enterprise, but not in a lease site and paying % gross rents. Should we be putting them into some kind of license agreement program or lease program? And they have consensus on that was, again, sort of not enough juice to be worth the squeeze, but definitely make sure they're complying with all permit requirements, environmental things, business license, that sort of thing. So that's just about as far as we ever took that one. Increased slip and pier fees to fully recover the city's utility costs. We did that. We did a cost recovery analysis in 2019. We've pretty much implemented everything we're going to implement there. There's a couple of our fees that we're doing a phased implementation over time, but we've pretty much done everything we needed to do on the cost recovery study. Boat or RV storage in the Triangle lot until permanent use can be found for that. That's the lot behind the Maritime Museum. They have input on that. And the eventual input was to pursue that. We went to the council. The feeling there at the council was only do boats because we're a fishing town and there's a bigger need there. We don't want to be RV storage, and so we implemented that program. It's up and running. It's full. We got a waiting list. So we're taking a good amount of that lot and trying to leave a little bit left still for public parking. So that's a work in progress. It's for generating some good revenue. A concert venue in the Triangle parking lot, that was an idea that never really got pursued. That would really take some proponent, some sort of a concert promoter or somebody to actually do that, but that was nothing that ever really went anywhere. Next one is leaseholder incentives for leaseholders to diversify their products and maybe offer something that is not offered to attract different demographic or something. I think we decided to have a Harbor Advisory Board to just let the market rule. That's what we have leaseholders for, and we have business people to offer what the public wants and demands. So there's nothing to pursue there. We didn't pursue anything. The next one, aggressively pursue grant opportunities. As I spoke earlier, we do that now. We're limited in how much we can go after just by staff time. But there's a number of grants from the state of California from boating waterways that we use now and will continue to use. So that's always an open-ended book that I think we can always look at. City taking over full operation of the State Park Marina. As you know, we're in an operating agreement with state parks that was predicated on us doing a complete redevelopment of that marina. It failed because the cost for the dredge material disposal was just too high. We had considerable discussions with state parks about 2015, 16, 17. we've been brought to the Harbor Advisory Board, as some of you remember, the state park concessionaires for both the marina and the cafe, and state parks folks were involved with that. And then in the subsequent year, the folks in Sacramento moved on, they retired, the people that were actively pushing that. We had a lot of turnover in the superintendent here in the San Luis Obispo County District, and that went nowhere for a number of years. I've currently gotten back into some discussions with our superintendent now, who's been here for a couple of years, Dan Follett, and they're engaging in a new cost benefit analysis of that marine operation to see if it'll support the rebuild or some sort of improvement. So we'll see where that goes. So that's ongoing. Another one was expand the current mooring field. As you may recall, we had a Cal Poly intern or a Cal Poly student. I'm not sure she was a grad student or where she fit in the hierarchy there, but she came in and mapped our current mooring field, and we used that data to enter it into the city's GIS mapping program. But beyond that, we've not done anything with it. Cannabis related sales, that was another item that was looked at by the Harbor Advisory Board, or at least thought of by the Harbor Advisory Board. Current municipal code and zoning would preclude it on the waterfront. The zoning's wrong. And currently our municipal code only says 2 cannabis related businesses can operate in Morro Bay, and we've got both those licenses up and running. So it would have to be a municipal code change to do anything different there. Harbor Fund receiving the share of the city's possessory interest tax, TOT, transient occupancy tax, or sales tax revenues generated off the waterfront. As you should know, up until this coming budget year, the Harbor Fund has never received any sales tax or TOT directly, or T-bid taxes, or property taxes. That's the one I was trying to think of. But Measure E was recently passed, another 1% sales tax initiative, and the city council committed to, and staff committed to the Harbor Fund receiving some of those funds, which in the proposed budget we are, which will be great. That's definitely helping us get over our deficit problems and start putting some money in the bank. Periodic events at the Rock. I think we've looked at a number of things there. We've done some not revenue generating things, but we did our movie nights, couple of movie nights out there, but staff wise, we've really never made any real significant progress out there other than the existing events like the Kite Festival and Harbor Fest. That's not the Rock, but other events like that have historically been around. We've promoted and encouraged those, but we've not pursued any of our own. Next one be create an Embarcadero Business Improvement District or Special Assessment District or Port District, some kind of a district that's a special assessment district that collects revenues to go back into that district to improve it. A couple of years ago, I think we did some limited research with a couple of HAB members, but nothing was ever brought back to the Harbor Advisory Board for consideration. So that one's still kind of hanging out there. And then finally, Waterfront RV Camping, as I spoke earlier, we implemented that in last September on a pilot basis with council approval. That'll go through September 2021. So come the end of the summer, we'll be bringing that back to council to see if they want to continue moving forward with it. In addition, we're seeking coastal development permit approval for that to keep it running through the summer. So with that, I think those are, like I said, the ideas that we've run through already. I think we should start with those revenue generating ideas and see if anybody has any further discussion on any of those, and like to see if there's anything, like say, worth further looking into. And is there anything new or additional that we haven't thought of, or something that was left in the dust a long time ago if we want to pick back up, things like that. I included our SWOT analysis, which is the strength, weakness, opportunity, threat analysis we did, I think last year in 2019, because it was 2019 last year, just kind of a blur. And we looked through the SWOT lens at the city council's 4 primary goals, and under this revenue generating goals, the achieve economic and fiscal sustainability, we looked at the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and identified the 2 highest priorities of under each of those categories. And I included those in your staff report just to give you some context, for an example, our strength on goal number 1B is the city's historic image as a quaint fishing village. Well, how can we capitalize on that from a revenue generating standpoint? Is there an opportunity there? So that was the idea of putting the SWOT analysis in there. Was just sort of a brain teaser to help direct thought on what some opportunities might be or threats to be considered if a revenue generating opportunity is pursued. And I'm almost done. I think that's about it. So any results we get out of here tonight, I think, like I say, it'll probably feed into the goal setting process. In addition to whatever other appropriate areas it might go to see if we can foresee some of these things, see some of these things through. Any
Okay.
questions?
Yeah, can we keep the questions to just the items that we're talking about right now, and then I'll open it up for any new revenue ideas after the question part of like the existing ones. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions about the existing listed items for Eric or whomever? Jean?
Question or comment? On the aquarium project, we could probably just scratch that one off. That's long gone. On the grant writing, I don't know whether it's possible to hire a grant writer and then he get paid for whatever grants that he is acquiring, so that was no cost to us. So I don't know how that works out.
That's pretty typical with grant writers. I don't think a grant writer would be something we as a harbor department could ever pursue. I think it would be a citywide initiative and it would look at grants for the entire city, not just for the harbor department. That might be viable. I don't know.
Would we list that as a goal request? That the city get a grant writer?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we're looking for ideas to pursue and see, what the Harbor Advisory Board consensus is on those, and we would move those forward as appropriate.
I just know that staff is limited in their time and resources. And if we can have somebody who professionally does that, it might be cost beneficial.
Agree. Chris?
I know a grant writer who works in Napa Valley for a clinic, a public clinic, who's used to live here. And I could give her a call because I don't know the marketplace for grant writers. But if there are hired gun grant writers, and we're looking at some of these different projects that do that for a percentage takeout on the grant when it's presented, rather than charging the city. I mean, Eric, should I make a couple of calls, or do you know these sorts of people?
I absolutely make some of those calls. I mean,
I'll make the call.
I mean that fits into your role in the fiscal committee too. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Right.
It's like I say, I think a lot of the grants, they write them. The grant administration will be part of is how they get paid. They write that into the grant, so the grant ends up paying them how they work.
I'll check it out.
Okay, that sounds good. Does anybody else have any questions on the existing items? Lynn?
No, not
Lynn,
at
are
the
you with
moment.
us?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to attend something outside.
All right, you got back to us. Okay. Member O'Brien,
No.
any questions? Okay, and Member Witkowski, any questions on the existing list?
No.
Okay, so let's talk about new ideas that we could possibly add to this list. And then if we have time, maybe we can check some off and get it off the list. And then if we even have more time, if there's any changes that we want to make to the existing ones, which I think are pretty, anyway, well-written at this point in time. So I'll open the floor.
Sorry,
Does any-
you-
okay.
What were you going to do? Public comment?
Oh, okay.
Sorry, it sounded like you were, but I wasn't sure.
Well, board member questions, because then we're gonna bring after this. Okay. You know what? I do have one question. I forgot about my questions. On the expand the current mooring field, when the Cal Poly intern did that, did it show any availability to expand or re-grid the moorings in order to increase spaces?
I don't believe what I saw and just what I know from being out there in person, I don't think there's any space under the existing layout to expand in the existing boundaries that we are confined by. They're fed, it's a federally designated mooring field, so we're stuck within the box. So there's no more room to expand into open territory, so to speak.
Okay,
Can I make a quick comment on that?
go for it.
The Cal Poly person who did this study was inaccurate with their study. And unfortunately, she didn't map where the mooring blocks were at. She just marked where the boats were at. And there's a whole big difference. It may be, 75 feet away from where the mooring blocks are located. And that's where the boats rotate around. So it was a good effort, but it didn't really produce what we needed to see. And then that area is federally designated. So I would think it would take an act of Congress to expand that, but maybe you knew that better.
Yeah, I think literally. I mean, I
Yeah.
think the position of the boats generally besets where they are, but as you know, there's a 3-to-1 scope, and they, different boats could have pulled different directions. So
Yeah,
they
as
need
it's come up for a number of years, we have what's called an empirical formula for the location of the mooring blocks. And what that means is the emperor says that's where it's going to be. So that's how it works out.
Are we later than in the old days?
All right. Okay, so that's it for questions from the board members, and I would like to open it up for public comment now. Anthony, do we have anybody with their hand raised in the queue?
Thank you, Chair Hansen. I do not see any raised hands in the queue.
All right, thank you. And I will close public comment for right now on business item B3. Now for board discussion on the items. So does anybody have any new revenue opportunity ideas? And I'll start with member Witkowski.
One observation / idea, it seemed to me like there was generally a weak tie between things that might be driving costs up and the new ideas that are on the current list, other than the measure that was passed. Like, for example, like there's no concert, like things that are costing us an increasing amount, we're not necessarily, we don't have existing ideas on how to make more money from those. So I think one thing that we could do is kind of audit the existing expenses. I mean, even just looking at the Harbor Department status report, you could see things that are taking up time, like intoxicated person throwing up in bathroom. That might show that, like, maybe if that's taking up time and resources, then there needs to be like a higher tax on places on the waterfront that are providing alcohol that are potentially like driving things like that up. Or if it's something like an electric boat that ran out of charge and needed time, then maybe if that's like a trend that we're seeing over time, like kayakers or recreational businesses that are on the waterfront are taking up those resources, then anyways, like the larger point is I think we should look at the things that are driving the costs up and see how we could balance those costs within the budget.
Good
Okay,
comment.
yes. All right, so am I just supposed to go to the next question and there's no discussion or on this, or does anyone, Harbor Master, want to respond to any of those? ideas, revenue?
Chris has his hand up.
No, he does not want to. Okay, so,
Chris, well, I don't, I'm just, you want to just go through people one by one and see what their ideas are. And
okay, all
we
right.
can discuss what Mary just brought up if you want to.
Well, I was just thinking that you
Dig
can
into
kind
that
of
a little.
respond as far as the way that you guys had the fee analysis. So to make it known to the public and to our new member that certain things are being charged to people. So that's one resource that you can look at as far as, boats needing assistance. There's a fee if you have, you get one a year. So some of those things have come to play. And so that's what I was thinking. Maybe you wanted to respond to that.
Well,
a fee for some of these.
the fee study was done to look at existing revenue generators, slips, moorings, piers, liveaboards, leases, and then are we recovering the amount that it takes to administer those? And that's what that exercise was. It wasn't, I guess because it was a fee, master fee cost recovery. It wasn't so much an exercise that, hey, is there something else that's causing us costs that we're not charging for, and let's start charging for them. I don't think it was so much that as existing revenue lines that we looked at.
All right, thanks. Chris, you had, Member Vale, you had something to add?
To Mary's point is, if there is a trend or a loss leader, like if we look at the records of the Harbor Patrol and they do.
Yep.
There
Oh, there
you
you
go.
go. It's working.
Okay, where were we?
All right, sweet.
Bad timing. Sorry, Sharice.
No, okay, so where were we? Where can we start from?
We're in discussion and conclusion.
We were discussing that you were, I think, just asking if anybody had any new ideas. I think we went through the old ideas and got a little bit of input. So now we're see if there's any new ideas.
Okay, so we got Member Witkowski's input. So who would like to go next? Jean, Member Dowdy, you mentioned that a lot of things are going on. Did you want to talk about any new ideas that?
No, I just saying that there are lease sites developing now, and that will increase the revenue for the harbor department.
Okay. Are there, okay, a question about that I have is, are there, to Eric, are there any vacant sites right now that aren't in either a redevelopment phase? How many open spots do we have?
There's three truly vacant websites, lease sites. One's at the south end off the Inn at Morro Bay, just water lease. Inn at Morro Bay is lease when Charlie was there, they were interested at some point in the future in pursuing that, but that was a while ago and Charlie's not there anymore. The next one is just south of Associated Pacific Constructors and the little houses on the south end there. Gene has some experience on that. Years ago, there was a proposal to put in a little marine research center, and that was before my time here in the city, but
That's almost all water.
yeah, it's almost all water lease. And then we put that out for RFP 2014, somewhere through there, didn't get any submissions. We also put out, there's an empty lease site similar to the GAFCO lease site. It's on the other side of the South T Pier, smaller in the water there that basically goes from the top of the revetment out and not the parking lot. And we put out an RFP for that. And at the time we had a couple of responses to that, one of them being Verge's Landing. And they're interested in developing a landing for their sport fishing operation, because as you know, they're up at Market. And at the time we put that on pause because the whole Boatyard effort was relatively new. We had just fairly recently acquired the Triangle lot, and so we were looking to see if that water area could be used where maybe where the boats would haul out, and so we kind of put that RFP on pause as we pursued the whole Boatyard thing in the Triangle lot. And I've actually recently had interest from Verges again and seeing if they can get that resurrected. So that comment was timely.
Cool. All right. Member O'Brien, would you like to let us know if you have any new ideas for revenue?
And no, not at this time. I think Eric's done a fine job and the Harbor Department's done a fine job in utilizing what they've got there to work with. That no, I think most of the ways that I have in mind for raising revenues would piss everybody off, including myself. I'll keep them to myself.
Duly noted. Okay. And then keep in mind with our outreach, to ask some of the different people that you have been in, put in the liaison position with, to talk to them about it. Because I asked a couple of mine and I was pleasantly surprised with some of their ideas. Really creative and actually very functional. So just know that in the different outreach groups that you're supposed to talk to, that's a really great conversation starter. So, all right. So next, Member Meissen.
I wish I had a new idea, but I don't.
Okie dokie. And Member Vale.
I actually don't have anything new to say. I think you're right. I should be. I'm down to Marine, the museum all the time. There are people through there. I know a bunch of retail people. You start talking to more people outside this box, and see if there's some genius idea out there. But I don't have anything to share now.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so I didn't forget myself this time, so I'm gonna talk about ideas that I had. I feel that we should add a marketing aspect to the Embarcadero via the Harbor Department's funds that they collect for percentage rents. A small amount, something like 2% of the percentages that they get would be equivalent to around $20,000. And if we use that to either go with a larger company that markets different areas, I think that would be something that pretty much every single leasee, sublease included, that would be a tangible thing to say, I give this money and this is what they do for me. And it will only do the same thing in return with giving more funds to the Embarcadero, to the percentage rents. So if we market it, they will come. They're already coming, but there'll be more. And if we market it right, we can even get the, possibly ones that we're not reaching right now. And so I think marketing is a really good aspect for revenue generating that should be possibly added. And then I had another idea, which the museum right now, the Maritime Museum, is kind of just stuck in that one little area. And you've got all these little fences and areas, markers, and it's pretty much still a parking lot. I think that we should look into being able to place some of those items that are part of the Maritime Museum along the harbor walk. So not necessarily play structures or things that people can climb on, but features that as they're doing the walk on the harbor walk, they can be like, oh, look at that small boat, or look at that giant anchor, things that could actually be a walking museum that's part of the Maritime Museum, but is not all clumped in one parking lot, spaced out. I think it would be more aesthetically pleasing, and with a little kiosk that talked about it. I think could be a really cool walking tour that could be something that everybody wants to take part in. And we could even have like those QR codes that they can do on their phone that goes into more detail if they really like that display. It's a funny thing, but if any of you know John Smitty, his boat got locked up on the rocks up in Cayucas. Is it still there? I don't know, but everybody just loved looking at this wrecked boat on the rocks. A sad situation for him, but quite an amazing view. So so that's what I was thinking about, is possibly being able to let the museum take some of their features and move it along the Harbor Walk as a walking tour of our heritage. Then talking to some of my groups, the school system, we talked about things that they didn't necessarily like, and that was like feeding of the squirrels, and just, you know, a lot of people talked about trash, but the synergy that we could possibly have with the schools is to create a contest where the kids get to submit signs for picking up your litter, or squirrel, you know, don't feed the animals. If we had a little contest that could be like, you know, they get a couple of treats and a boat cruise, and, you know, something that they would be excited just to win first place, and have their sign be up at the Rock or at Coleman Park or whatnot, would be a great way to be part of the community and and get a message out there that's really needed. So that was from the school system. And then an Embarcadero leaseholder mentioned that one of our best assets is restaurants. It was a restaurateur. And we talked about possibly having a week in like January, February, that's usually like a locals time, to do best of the Embarcadero, tastings of the Embarcadero, and get a lot of the waterfront leaseholders to be a part of that. And then it would get the locals down at a time that they feel comfortable, but possibly more often, to come down and do a lot of the businesses on the waterfront. So it would be a benefit to the harbor department to get that increased revenue from those places at the time where seasonally they're pretty slow. So there's my additions into new revenue possibilities. And so moving into the next part of this.
Therese,
Yes.
I had an idea. Can I just like, can I speak?
Yeah, you
again?
can go
Is
again.
another idea? Okay. Just like when you were talking, something, I just had an idea. Kind of in the same marketing vein and like getting people to spend money at the waterfront. I think most tourist cities nowadays have at least one Instagram mural type wall. Like I know there's one in Slow now, kind of by the parking center. It's like Slow Happy You're Here. And like you might have seen them, there's tons in like Tennessee and stuff. But if we paid someone to do some sort of harbor themed Instagram worthy mural on one of the walls downtown, we could just have it as as a driver of people to get downtown or on the harbor to spend money, and have that kind of naturally increase the harbor fund. Or you could have some sort of like donate to the harbor fund Venmo handle, like on the bottom corner of the mural, if you wanted to like really push it. But I think that's something that is kind of like status quo in most like tourist areas nowadays.
Would you say that would, if I was gonna write that down, would you say it would be like a social media mural?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Sharice, you might want to ask for public comment again. I see we've got a raised hand, been there for a while. Cal Myers.
Oh. Okay, I didn't see that. Okay, so I don't think that we're done with the main part of the discussion, but if you want me to open public comment up twice for this, because I was still gonna do discussion about the items that we have in there should we delete any of them?
It's up to you if you want to call it again. He's had his hand up a while. I don't know what
Okay.
he's trying to jump in because, and yeah.
Oh, I thought it had to be like open public comment time and then
You
you're
need to
done.
open public comment. You can open public comment again. You're
Okay, all right. All right. We are excited to have somebody who has a public comment. So Cal, I'm going to open up public comment. And
Hopefully you can hear me
Yes.
again. Again, this is Cal. I've been having internet problems through the course of the meeting, so hopefully it stays connected. One of the things that's not super glamorous was the revenue idea. I have an RV, and one of the things, especially now that you guys have the city-owned RV spaces, is a public dump station. Again, it's not super sexy, but one of the things I've done it several times, a day trip down here, parked at the beach, had a good time, and it'd be nice to be able to empty the waste tanks. I know they have like the washout station down by the boat ramp. I don't know if that probably wouldn't be the appropriate place to have it, but maybe up by the Triangles parking lot. It would obviously be a capital investment, but I think it might be a revenue possibility. If I lived in Orange County, they had a public one at one of the trailer places, and then all of a sudden it went up to like $10. So I don't know if that's something that would be the city would want to do if they keep the RV spaces permanently. But it's nice to have that facility available before you leave on Sunday or Monday or whatever. That's my idea for more revenue.
all right, thank you, Cal. I will comment to that. Can I comment to a public comment? I do believe, and maybe Eric, you know the answer to this, but that the state park, if they're open, you are able, they charge a fee for their dump station that's right down in Bayside area, the state park there.
Yeah, when we opened ours, we directed people either to the state park or to Morro Dunes across the creek, and for a fee they'll dump your tanks.
Right. Okay, so we can either leave all of the items as is, or add some of the ones. I don't know. We can make a motion to add a few that we just talked about. So I'm going to do that.
Well,
Cherise?
Yeah, Lynn, help me out here.
Well, before we start adding more things to a rather long list, can we not eliminate those that have been considered and either allowed to die or found that they are not really viable?
Okay, so that's what I did, and unfortunately they're not numbered, but the way I was gonna do it is to say to delete, the 5th one, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 12th. And is there anybody that doesn't, it's kind of, anyway, if we number them, can we number them, and that way I can get consensus if we want to get rid of that number?
Sure.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So, Cherise, should we all now start considering? Are we in discussion?
Okay, so if we physically go on our thing, and so I want you to know what it is that we're going to get rid of. We can either do it 2 ways. One, I can go through each one and vote to keep it or vote to delete it. Or we can motion to delete all of them at once, so we don't have to do roll call however many times that we have this. 14.
I would suggest, Sharice, name your list and then go through them and just ask if you got consensus. Does everybody seem to be agree with this? And everybody nods north and south. Then at the end, assuming everybody's in agreement, then you can do them all at once. We don't have to do a motion and vote, and motion and vote, and motion and vote.
Okay, all right. So as the chair, I'm going to motion that we remove from our list number 5, for-profit business operating on the waterfront. 6, increase slip and pier fees. 7, boat and/or RV storage in the triangle lot. 8, leaseholder incentives for leaseholders to diversify their products.
That's
12,
9, Sharice. That's number 9.
Oh, that's number
8
9.
is
Oh,
conservation.
I see, I wrote over it. Okay, number 9. Now that's gonna make everything else. Okay. 11, 12, 13. And then number 13, cannabis related sales.
Lose them.
Hmm?
Get rid of them.
Okay, do you have are you seconding me?
Well,
Yeah.
how about number 1?
Okay, let's say let's find out if we want to get rid of all these, and then
Okay,
if anybody else wants to get rid of, they can make their own motion after this.
I move that we get rid of the ones you just read.
Okay, so you're seconding my motion.
I'm not sure you can make the motion.
And so now we need to vote on it, correct, Lori?
Or you can see if there's a friendly amendment per Jean's request.
Thank you, Scott.
Correct. Yeah, if Gene wants to amend it and add his.
Okay, oh, I see what you're saying.
Sharice, if you want to entertain a friendly amendment to add Jean's number 1, you can do that, and then Chris can friendly
Okay,
second it.
all right.
Done.
Okay, yes. Is that sufficient?
You're
Sure,
adding number 1 to the list.
you're adding
I'm
one.
adding number 1 to the list. And he seconds it. Member Vale.
Yes.
Okay, and so now we get to vote on it. Lori, roll
Yeah.
call?
Member O'Brien,
Yes.
member Dowdy,
yes,
member Vale,
Aye.
member Witkowski,
Yes.
member Hanson,
Yes.
member Myason.
Yes.
Okay, your motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Any other items that we feel need to be removed from our list by any of the other members?
what about expanding the mooring field?
It sounds like we cannot do that, at least at this time, and since it would take a motion of Congress to do so. It's federal,
Yes,
Right.
so get rid of it.
Okay, so you guys want to make a motion and second it? You guys know more about this mooring field, and I don't want to motion it.
I'll make the motion to delete it.
I'll second.
Okay.
But I was thinking we should get rid of some of the others that they have looked into in some form or another and decided that it was not viable. 13 was already done.
Yes.
Number 15, which is periodic events, no significant progress. That might be something we would want to set aside at this time. That doesn't mean it could not come back for discussion at a later time if somebody had a brilliant idea as to how to make periodic events at the Rock a money-making endeavor. So I would get rid of periodic events right now. The camping, we've already is underway. We're doing that. Slip fees. Concert venue is like the periodic events. We are not pursuing that now because it doesn't really work out. We don't have enough to make enough money on them. I would eliminate number 8. Number 9, leaseholder incentives. That was discussed by the HAB.
We got rid of that one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not check that. Beg your pardon.
Which one had the food trucks out at the Rock?
Food trucks out at the Rock.
Number 4, concessionaires.
Yeah.
I'm opposed to that.
I mean, I worked on the merchant lease agreements, the short term, or it's still a possibility. They drafted it, or did we approve it? Did it get approved, Eric? I think it did. The short term, like the
No,
food.
That was a work in progress. That was a license agreement program.
Oh yeah, the license agreement. So we worked on that.
Go ahead, sorry.
And I mean, COVID hit not that long after they started redoing it. It's almost done. Just needs some tweaks. But when this all comes to pass, it might be something that we want to look at. So that's why I personally left it, is because it will come back, and leaving it on here doesn't do anything except for it to keep it in our thoughts. So, any others, Lynn?
Number 5, the HAB talked about that and came to the consensus that they are already required to have a business license, and we should not do more than that.
We just got rid of that one, Lynn.
That's another one. Okay,
That last motion.
very good. That's all then.
Okay, so Lynn, I hear you said that you wanted to get rid of 4. That was the one that I just talked about, because we were working on a license agreement, and it's going to come up again. Did you want to put a motion to delete number 4, 8, 12, and 14?
8, 12, and 14, but hearing what you're saying about the concessions, I would leave that there.
Okay, so
8, 12, and 14.
can you make a motion in your own term?
Sure.
So,
I'm-
excuse me. So you have a motion on the table right now. Vale motioned and then Dowdy seconded for the mooring field. So do you want to amend that motion and add these? Or do you want to vote on?
No,
it?
I included it. I included 12. But yeah, I guess, okay, Lori, tell me how.
So, I mean, it's up to you. Do you want to just amend the
I
motion?
want to amend the motion, or have Lynn amend the motion to,
So Vale would amend the motion because
Okay.
he started the motion to add those items, and then Dowdy would second.
okay.
Lori, or Sharice, may I speak up real quick on the RV program, since it's in a pilot phase? If you eliminate it now, it may be perceived as the HAB does not support that pilot program. So I understand what Lynn is saying, but if that's the intent, I would rather have that be taken up separately to say we don't.
That's not part of what number 8 is concert venue.
Right.
Number 12 is mooring field, and number 14 is periodic events at the Rock.
Okay, I thought I heard RV camping added to that list. So that's why I was making sure.
RV 17, last on the list.
Okay, I thought I heard somebody mention that one.
I'm getting the wrong numbers. 15.
Yeah, 15 is what.
15, sorry. Okay, so let me say this correctly. So Member Vale, you need to make a motion that includes the original one that you said 12, but includes item number 8, concert venue, and item number 15, periodic events.
8 and 15,
Yes,
I so move.
I agree.
seconded by member Dowdy.
Yes.
Okay, whew, all right, so got through that,
Okay, let's vote on it.
and now we're gonna vote on it. Yes, thank
Okay,
you, Laura.
thank you. Member O'Brien,
Yes.
member Dowdy,
Yes,
member Vale,
I,
member Witkowski,
Yes.
member Hanson,
Yes,
member Meissen.
Agree.
Your vote passes. Motion passes.
Okay,
Thank
so you
you.
narrowed down the list. Okay, that's helpful, I think.
okay, and so, and we're gonna keep, okay, so the next part on this item is asking around the board, does anybody want to tweak the ones that we're keeping or leave them as is? Is there a motion to keep them as is?
So moved.
Thank you. Anybody seconding?
I'll do it. I'll second it.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so next is to talk about the ones that we added. So I'm going to
So
motion.
Sharice,
Yes.
you put a motion on the table, so we need to vote on it if you're correct.
Okay, yes, so Lori, vote on it.
Okay,
Roll call.
sorry.
No, it's good, thank you, sorry. This is
Okay, member O'Brien,
Yes.
member Dowdy,
yes,
member Vale,
Aye.
member Witkowski,
Yes.
member Hanson,
Yes,
member Meissen.
Yes.
Your motion passes.
thank you. Okay, so we had the new ideas brought forth. One is to look at issues that are causing Harbor Department resources and time, and evaluate if there's a possible cost recovery on those items. Then there was a second idea of revenue, which was marketing open, in my own words, marketing open lease sites or aiding master leaseholders with vacant subleases. So it was kind of along the lines of Member Dowdy saying that a lot of places are opening, so it's creating more revenue. So that could be a possible addition. Mine was creating a way to market waterfront or Tidelands properties in order to generate more revenue for those entities and therefore the Harbor Department funds. And then the fourth one was finding ways to encourage a artistic heritage walk along the harbor waterfront. And then our last one was using the marketing for possibly doing a social media mural. Discussion on those items. Is there any of those items that people feel that they do not want to add to this list? Or are they interested in making all of those part of the list?
I was confused on your second and your third one. Seems like they're both the same thing.
Second and the third one, well, no, it was, the second one was more about vacancies on the lease sites. So just trying to utilize the marketing or, getting the word out that there's these spaces available. Right now, there's really not much done as far as property management to get those open lease sites.
And number 3,
No, number 3 is more about just marketing the actual physical businesses that are already in place.
Advertising.
Right. So I did really well last meeting. So does anybody want to make a motion to add these 5 items to the list of revenue generating, or are there any that they oppose? Okay, should I go at them one at a time? I'll go at them one at a time. So does anybody want to make a motion that says, look at the issues that are causing Harbor Department resources and evaluate if there's a possible cost recovery?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, so Member Witkowski, this was your idea. Would you like to make a motion to add it to this list?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to add it with one change. If we can, instead of saying like issues, if we can just say like cost drivers.
Cost drivers, okay.
Hey, Therese,
Yes,
can I jump in and make a suggestion?
please.
I would just take all these at once.
Well, that's what I was trying to do, but I didn't get too much positive feedback, so,
Yeah, you can suggest however you want.
okay.
You
Okay,
can just poll everybody individually without making a motion and just kind of get an idea. and then go
Okay.
from there.
okay, that's it. I like that idea. Okay, so Member Witkowski, out of the 5 that I just commented on, is there any additions to any more of them, or issues that you would like to not have on?
I think the only one that I didn't love as much was the advertising for subleases.
Okay,
Comment?
okay, so all the other ones were all righty.
Yeah.
Okay, and Member O'Brien, did you want to change, add, or make any comments about any of these 5?
No, actually, Mary covered the one that I saw a problem with, and so no, that was all. That's all I saw there.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. And Member Dowdy?
I would eliminate 2 and 3. I'd let the market bear that out.
Okay, and Member Meissen?
I'll agree with Mr. Dowdy on this.
Okay. All right, and Member Vale?
No, I'm all right.
Okay. So based on that, I'm going to try and take them all at the same time and make a motion that first one, look at all cost drivers that are causing Harbor Department resources and evaluate if there's a possible cost recovery. Number 2, marketing open lease sites or finding ways to announce publicly and aiding master leaseholders with vacancies if possible leases or subleases. And then 3 is creating, looking into marketing the Tidelands area using Harbor Department, a small percentage of the Harbor Department funds. And 4, looking into creating a walking museum of the Morro Bay heritage And 5 was looking into social media, either murals or other ways of accessing social media. Does anyone second?
Second,
Thank you, Lynn. And Lori, can we have a vote?
Member O'Brien,
Yes.
Member Dowdy,
Nay,
Member Vale,
Aye.
Member Witkowski,
Nay.
Member Hanson,
Yes.
Member Myasin.
yes.
Okay, the motion passes 4-2.
Okay, thank you. All right, so at this time, we are done with that business item, correct? So we can,
Therese?
yes,
Therese, you do, we do have a hand up, so maybe
Yes.
we could just open public comment.
open public comment. Okay, let's open public comment at this time.
So that's Anthony.
Oh, is it? There he is.
Yeah, the internet and charter's down up at the Vets Hall. He's off. That's probably him on his phone. He's just saying he's back, at least here. I'll
With his hand up.
unmuted him. Anthony, you there? And I can't seem to unmute him.
There
Well,
he is. There.
Anthony, you're back.
Is Anthony AWROS?
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you.
I
Well,
believe he's unmuted.
yeah, he's unmuted. Anthony? Well, we're good. I mean, we're recording.
okay, all right, let's
We're still moving.
move forward. So I'm going to close public comment at this time, and we're going to move on to agenda item B4, which is City Council goals and objectives update and receipt of Harbor Advisory Board input into the upcoming 2021-2022 goals and objectives setting process. And with this, Harbor Master Eric, do we want Scott to talk first, present first?
It's his item.
It's his item.
All right. Hey, Sharice, you're doing an excellent job. You're getting there. It's only your second or third meeting. You're doing awesome. These are hard items. So keep up the good work, and nice to meet some of the new members here. So I'm going to be brief in my comments because really interested in your input more than hearing myself talk. But just by way of background, hopefully you've been able to review the staff report. I'll just talk about kind of the goals framework and not really get into all the updates and where we're at with everything, because that's outlined pretty well in the staff report, I hope. Basically, council started a strategic planning process back in 2016. I think that was the first time we really tried to do that, integrate not only sort of what our community desires, but integrate that into policy and budgetary decision making. And we've really narrowed those down to 4 core goals, plus the 5th temporary goal with COVID-19. As Eric identified in the revenue enhancement discussion before this one, the primary focus has been fiscal or financial and economic sustainability for our community. Driven by a lot of things, the Great Recession, the loss of the power plant income to the city. Those have really put downward pressure on our ability to fund capital and to keep up with the growing pension costs. And thankfully, our community has been really supportive of what we do as a city, and approved another tax increase last year. And we've recovered pretty significantly from the COVID-19 impacts. but we still have work to do. And so thankful to have input from the Harbor Advisory Board on revenue options. And so the other goals that are related to what you all do and what Eric and his team does is on the public infrastructure improvements. We know there's a lot of needs in the waterfront with docks and piers, with the sidewalk, roads, and parking lots. They're well loved, but we don't always have the funds available to take care of them the way we'd like to. And so you sort of integrate those first two goals that really are intertwined, and that's where we've been spending a lot of time and focus. The other goal is to complete the updates to our strategic or land use planning, like our general plan and zoning code updates. Those documents are about 10 to 20 years out of date. And so that's been about a 6-year process to get to where we are today, with the general plan just being approved and going to the Coastal Commission, and now picking up work on the zoning code. An offshoot of that is trying to address affordable housing in our city, which is a statewide and nationwide issue, but particularly acute in the SLO region. Another goal that we brought into the fore back in 2018 was improving our communication and engagement with the community. And I know that this advisory board has created their own subcommittee, or really started taking upon each of yourselves to help improve communication to the community. Those who spend time in the harbor and the waterfront area understand its vitalness to our success. But I think a lot of people don't really understand how it functions and operates, what it costs to maintain, and what it is we actually do down there. So I think that's a worthy endeavor to continue that work. And again, I mentioned that there's a temporary goal in place now to address the public health and economic fallout from COVID-19. And we definitely are hopefully seeing the tail end of that with increases in vaccination rates and our economy really turning on. So those are the high level goals that City Council has in place now. Typically what we do is, after an election in January, February to follow, we do outreach to the community, as well as our advisory boards and commissions, to get input about, are our goals reflecting what our current needs are in the community? And an offshoot of that is, do we have the right action items or work plans in place to help achieve those goals? And so we really try to get a pulse of the community in our advisory boards. And then we have a community forum, and which is facilitated, and then council looks at all those items closely and forges compromise amongst the 5 of them, and sets forth the new goals if they're revised, and the action items. And then that information is then carried back to the advisory boards to help drive work plans for each of those respective committees and boards. And HAB has been a really big player in that. I know there's been a lot of discussion about needing to turn focus and attention to the waterfront. And I've heard that from each of the council members. And in fact, they're talking about revenue enhancements for the harbor specifically next Tuesday. And that's why your important conversation you just had was so important for that. So council adopted 26 action items in 2019 for the 2019 and 20 goal process. We've been making a lot of progress on a lot of those fronts. I won't go into the details of that. You can review from the staff report. But I did want to make mention of several of the action items that relate in some respects to the harbor. First being the Market Street Plaza redevelopment opportunity. This is the old Destasios building and the parking lot below and parking lot adjacent to. We have several interested hotel redevelopers in the queue, considering redeveloping that space, which could bring significant revenue to our community and to the waterfront. The next item that we have as an action item that relates to the harbor is the continued work with the federal and state agencies regarding offshore wind development. We all know there was a major announcement last week by the Biden administration to allow offshore wind development in the Morro Bay sites. And so there is a lot of work to do, and this is probably a 5 to 10 year proposition, but we are very much committed to seeing that through. Another is outreach on opportunity sites in Morro Bay. There are a few quote unquote opportunity sites. One is massive in the waterfront area, which is the power plant site itself. And we're in discussions with the power plant owner, Vistra, for a potential battery storage project or facility there, in the $500 million to $1 billion investment range. So that would be a pretty significant investment in our community. Next is to assist in development of a business incubator or co-working space in Morro Bay that could potentially be landed in the Embarcadero area, but we haven't done a lot of work on that. Pursue grants for the Boatyard feasibility study. And we know that's a tough one and tough nut to crack. And we discussed that a little bit earlier today. High-speed internet in Morro Bay could help businesses down in the waterfront area. We're trying to find out how we can connect to federal funds that are now available for that and state funds. We also heard earlier today about pursuing grant funds. We are looking at things like emergency warming shelters. That's not necessarily pertinent to the harbor. And coordinating with nonprofit groups and community groups. We do have groups like Morro Bay Beautiful and Morro Bay in Bloom that spend time doing maintenance upkeep that our teams don't have the time to get to. And so we want to continue to see that happening. So with all that in mind, we are heading into the goal setting process, albeit it's a little bit late because of COVID-19. So we're coming to the advisory boards now to seek input, along with going out to the community with surveys and other methods to get input. What we're seeking from Harbor is to, actually I was reading from the wrong items. I'm sorry about that. We are seeking input from Harbor about Harbor specific action items. So disregard everything I just said. So here are the ones that are pertinent to you all is revenue enhancement options, which we just did. Parking management options, which is related to that. The zoning code update, which is coming, Boatyard facility, offshore wind, consideration of options for lease management. Right now, the city oversees lease management, and there's discussion about potentially contracting that function out or changing how we approach that, and then the Market Street Plaza redevelopment. And so those are the action items we're focused on right now, but we, much like you did with the previous item on revenue enhancements, we'd love to get your input, sort of go point by point. Are the current city goals the right ones? When you think about what our needs are as a community and how they relate to the harbor. Again, those goals are fiscal sustainability, public improvements, infrastructure improvements, our zoning code update and affordable housing, and communications and engagement with our community. So are those the right goals? Or should one of them or all of them be deleted, and should they be added to? And then the action items, the ones I just mentioned, are those the right action items as they relate to the harbor? Or should some of them be deleted, or should they be added to? So just like you did, Sharice, as you facilitated the previous item, sort of go through that. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and Eric can speak to these items as well. He was heavily involved in the goals process several years ago when we brought these forward. So yeah, happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Okay, so does anybody have a question for City Manager Scott Collins?
I had a question on the pursuit of the offshore wind development and kind of how it relates to the city's vision of like being a fishing village and being a beautiful place for tourists to come. Like, what are the pros that we're seeing of that bringing to our city?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mary. I don't know if they necessarily conflict. Certainly concerns about loss of fishing area was identified early on, and this process has been going on for almost 5 years now. I could be wrong slightly about that, but it's been going on for a while. And we do have one potential investor in offshore wind, Castle Wind, who's kind of got ahead of the curve and has done outreach to the Fishermen Association to see how some of those issues could be mitigated. So that's one thing that's being looked at. And as far as, does it conflict with the overall vision of the community? We are a tourist community, no doubt, and that's good and it's bad. When times are good, it's fantastic. When when it's not is really bad. And so there has been some efforts to consider how to diversify our economy. And if you think about a potential battery project of $500 million investment at the plant site and potential offshore wind of several $billion, that could be the kind of investment that buffers the city when tourism isn't going so well. And the 700-foot tall floating turbines will be 25 miles offshore and to the north of Morro Bay, so likely not visible from here. Though Eric may have more information about that. And further, if this ever makes it to fruition, there's a lot of hurdles. There's a potential to help redevelop, in a good way, help redevelop the harbor to help support the operations, if you will, out at the wind farm. So yeah, there's definitely some pros and cons to consider. We're not the decision makers on this. This is federal agency, Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, Department of Interior is going to make the call. But they definitely are concerned, and listening to those concerns, the coastal commissions, as part of their multi-agency group, the Department of Defense is heavily involved, obviously, and other agencies that may be affected by this. And there's a lot of opportunity for public comment on it to help kind of address those issues. And clearly, whale and bird migratory patterns could be affected by it. So all those things have to be considered before the feds would approve it.
I'm just wondering, like, even though we're not the approvers, whether it makes sense to do like a cost benefit analysis for Morro Bay, and then as a city for us to have a point of view. Yeah,
I think the council is, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the council sort of came out in 2017, 18 in support of this, and have signed a community benefit agreement with Castle Wind to help facilitate that process if they wind up applying for a lease site. So I think council sort of already staked out a position on this. As far as the cost benefit analysis, it's a great question. I know there's been some preliminary economic feasibility or what that job creation would look like. There's some work already done that's going to need some refinement. Depending on how big and how many lease sites there could be potential for several thousand jobs in the SLO County region. So that's one side of the equation. And the cost side, of course, is, what does it do to the environment and, potential impairment to what the coastline looks like. So yeah, ultimately I don't know if we have the capacity to kind of drill down, but there are other agencies who are doing that analysis, and all that will be made public.
Any other questions for City Manager Collins? Nope. Okay. All right. So
Do you want me to share the screen, Cherise? So you guys
share the screen, because
yeah.
what you talked about, if we're going to do it the same way, I need to have the list and have it be harbor specific.
Right. Let me find that. Make sure I share the right thing. Hold on. Is that it? Okay. Can you see that?
Right. Okay. So it's going to be that same. And so, I mean, I know the major city goals.
The major city goals are right here. So you want to start with the goals?
No. Well, what I was going to touch on is just say that we're not going to do our final all in tonight. We'll meet again in August and to talk about how it is that we're going to present our goals to the city council. So I would like to not cover talk about the current city goals. And if we're going to keep them, I'd like to just focus on the action items tonight. And so scrolling back to that, if we look at these action items that are affiliated with the harbor, area and the lease sites that affect the Embarcadero. So we have revenue enhancement options for specific. Okay, so review of revenue enhancement options. So we're most likely going to want to keep that. And then what I want you guys to look at right now is, are there any that we should get rid of? And so please just, I'll read them out, but then I'll ask each person, is there any that they want to omit? And then we'll decide if we want to omit them in our thing in our response to what it is that we want them to work on for our next 2 years goals. Okay, so review of parking management options, general plan and zoning code update, pursuit of a boatyard facility, pursuit of offshore wind development, consideration of options for lease management, and Market Street Plaza redevelopment. I'm going to go around the room and ask, is there any that they would want to remove as an action item that we would want them to be working on or have brought back to us to work on? So let's go. Member O'Brien, do you feel that any of these should be removed, or are they all still important action items?
I think it says pursuit of offshore wind development. What's that, number 5? Excuse me.
Yeah.
And I just didn't really understand it. I don't know why it would have to be there, because it's not something, if we did pursue, would make any difference one way or another, what a multi-billion-dollar corporation is going to do. I mean, they're pursuing us. We're not pursuing them. That's all. I don't care one way or another.
Okay. Member Vale, is there any that pop out at you as not have items to work on, action items?
Yeah, they're fine.
They're fine. Okay, Member Dowdy.
2 of them. One of them, the consideration of options for lease management. The waterfront leases are a different breed of cat, and it takes somebody who's got some history and familiar with our waterfront lease sites. And I would think that if you were to farm that out to the lowest bidder or somebody who's not familiar with our waterfront, would it be a disservice to our city? And then as far as the Market Street Plaza redevelopment, I believe that's not in the Tidelands Trust. So I don't know whether we have a review of that or not.
Okay. All right, thank you. And Member Meissen?
I agree with Mr. Dowdy that considerations of options for lease management should be removed, that our harbor department is doing a pretty good job on lease management, and it is rather specific to this environment and this community.
Okay, and did you also agree? So you're saying one of them you would remove, which is
Yes, remove the consideration of lease management, but the Market Street Plaza redevelopment, I think should stay.
Okay. All right.
How about the offshore wind?
Oh, offshore wind, yeah, that's probably not something that we can influence one way or the other.
At all.
Gotcha. Okay, and Member Witkowski?
I like all of these on this list. I would vote to keep them. I think the waterfront lease management thing, I think if there's a potential to look at it and maybe bring on someone who can let the harbor director focus on, I don't know, other things, and have it as part of their job to make sure that all those, that the vacancies are filled and things like that, then we should look at that.
Okay. And Member Vale, did I already talk to you? No, okay.
You did, but I'm basically agreeing with it.
Oh, with all of them. Okay, that's right. I just didn't write you down as okay. All right.
Changed my mind.
Okay. Okay, so it looks like 1 through 4 is looking good. There's the pursuit of offshore wind development. Eric, I mean, really as an action item for the Harbor Advisory Board, I mean, could that be reworded as in some different way besides pursuit of offshore wind? You know, like, because we still would want to have a voice if it came in, but it's also something that's up to the federal government anyway. So is this really a goal?
Well, pursuit may not be the exact right word. We definitely have a stake in it, and I think the Harbor Advisory Board has a stake in it. And, you know, even if it comes to pass and it's built out to whatever degree it's built out to, you know, there's going to be a big wire carrying power into Morro Bay through the power plant. And we're hoping that whatever power company operates the offshore wind will locate some of their maintenance and other folks here, monitoring and management folks here, where we've got, you know, crew boats operating out of Morro Bay and they're buying fuel and need their boats worked on and get some commercial boating activity going again. So yeah, pursuit may not be the right word, as opposed to support the development of.
How about paying attention to the offshore wind project that's going up? I mean, pursuit is a terrible word.
It's a
Just
little biased.
That's my
Pay
word.
attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
So do
Facilitator support.
say again?
Either facilitator support. It was just, at the time when we wrote this goal, there was a lot of uncertainty if the Department of Defense was going to allow it. So that's where the pursuit came from. And we were actively talking with Carbajal and Department of Defense and the White House, believe it or not. So maybe it's changed at this point.
Okay, so would I know your hands up, Member Vale. Offshore wind development facilitate or support? How would, if we were going to write it better?
Maybe advise on like harbor impacts of it, because I even support sounds like a little bit biased.
Okay, so advise on harbor. What was the other thing? Advise on harbor
Impact.
Okay, impact from offshore.
As a reminder that, you know, with Castle Wind, the city is in a community benefits agreement with Castle Wind, that we are in support of Castle in their pursuit of offshore wind.
But
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I
doesn't,
mean, we have a stated position of support for this. So I hear what everybody's saying. Definitely, you know, that if it's a bad deal for the city, we're going to make our voices heard. But it definitely, I don't want to intervene in your discussion. Just it's an important point that Eric made.
Okay.
So for the commercial fisherman who looks at something like that, it's somewhat open-ended here, isn't it? Pursuit of offshore wind development. How much
Yeah.
development? Does size matter? How about 1,000 square miles? Or 100? Does it even make any difference? I mean, what are you talking about? I don't, it's a little open-ended there. And it's not necessary.
Okay.
We don't need it. Everybody's paying attention. And it's not just the harbor department,
Okay.
the city, everybody's paying attention. The governor's paying attention. The president's paying attention. He knows where Morro Bay is now. He never knew that before.
All right. Awesome. Okay.
I was just gonna say too, like, even if the city does have a position, isn't it our role to kind of say what the impacts are gonna be, either a pro or a con on the harbor.
Eric, you wanna?
Well, I mean, the Harbor Advisory Board's role is advisory to the city council, yeah.
We
And
would
this-
always have that option.
Yeah, this process is for us to request to be what's important to us to cover. And if, I mean, we could get rid of it, but they will bring it back to us, you know, if they want to. So, but anyway, so.
Yeah, and I think what we can relay, you know, because it's not just the words, as Mr. O'Brien pointed out, precision is important. Sometimes things are intentionally opaque because we don't know what it is yet, and we still don't. But we can relay, hey, the HAB wants to play a role in just understanding what this will mean for the harbor specifically. And
Exactly.
and
Okay.
you know, it's hard to capture that in like the phrase, but I think that sentiment could be shared with council.
Could we just say, effect of offshore wind development?
Accept.
Effects.
Effects,
Of,
impact.
Okay, well, my question is, should we get rid of it? And it sounds like we shouldn't necessarily get rid of it as much as we should talk further about tweaking it.
yeah, and as Sharice mentioned at the outset of this item, will bring us back in August. So for
Right.
those of you who are really good at grammar, might spend some time on that. Spend some time on that, Jeremiah. I'm looking at you.
I won't be here in August. I won't be
Ah.
back till November, and you know that too, Chris.
I should have known that. Should know that. Can I go with you?
I wish I could.
All right, so I'm gonna go on to the next one that members were not interested in, which is a consideration of options for lease management. So I had two, Dowdy and Myson, that wanted to get rid of that.
You can put me in there with Gene and Lynn, if you're counting.
Okay, I'm just saying how I'm gonna word this motion as concisely as I possibly can, or get somebody to word it properly. And then the Market Street Plaza redevelopment. Now that it does, anyway, I'm gonna put in my 2 cents on that one. It really does flow into the harbor area, into the Tidelands Trust area, and it will, no matter who it is that takes it over. And I wouldn't want to omit it or not have them ask us to give them feedback on it, because bear in mind that it has the whole parking lot going through, and they're talking about all of the public benefit that they're going to request from whoever takes over that property. And that's integral in the heart of the Embarcadero and what it looks like on our side as well. So
Okay.
just gonna put that in there. Okay, so what I see is that we could possibly put in a motion. I'm not going to make it, but if Jeremiah or anybody wants to make a motion to either get rid of item 5, 6, and or 7. Does anybody want to put that in there? Or keep them all, or if nobody makes a motion, then we're keeping them all.
I move that we eliminate number, is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, number 6, and leave the rest.
I agree.
Okay,
Yeah.
So Jean, is that a second?
Yes,
Thank you.
okay, so now we need a vote, Lori, correct? Or do we want public comment before we vote?
Good idea. Public comment.
Okay, so I'm gonna open public comment, and this is scary because I don't know if people are able to make a public comment, Mr. Co-host.
I think they can. Hold on. Let me unshare this thing.
GGP is back.
Hi, everyone. That was kind of a nightmare. I do apologize. We lost charter and cable over here, and
Whoa.
I am back online now. I do sincerely apologize on behalf of myself and HEP Video, but we are back. I do not see any raised hands in the queue currently for public comment.
Okay, wonderful. That's good. Okay, so Lori, is it time for a vote?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Member O'Brien,
Yeah, I'm voting with Gene and Lynn there.
Member Dowdy,
Yes,
Member Vale,
Yes,
Member Witkowski,
No.
Member Hanson,
No.
Member Meissen.
Yes,
Okay, your motion passes.
Alrighty dighty. So now the next part of this is talking about any action items that are not on this list that any of us as board members want to bring forth. So I'm gonna do a roll call kind of ask of everybody, and I will start with Member Vale.
yes, next time I hold my hand up, you have to call on me.
Okay.
You told me you saw my hand was up and you never came back.
Oh,
My feelings are hurt.
sorry.
It's okay.
That's true. This is not the easiest job. No. So, knowing that now after we finished the topic that we were on before, is there anything that you would want to talk about right now as far as?
No.
No.
Let's move on.
Okay, my apologies. And so as far as you have no action items to discuss for including in a goal to the city councils. Okay, so Member Meissen, do you have any action items that are not listed that you would like to bring forth?
I do not.
Okay. Member Witkowski, do you have any possible goal action items that we would want to pose to the council?
No.
Okay. Member Dowdy, do you have any action items?
would the battery storage be included in the revenue enhancement portion?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah, I mean, actually, you know what, Gene, it falls under that broader category of opportunity sites, but yeah, it would also be a new revenue source potentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, no, nothing else.
Okay, and Member O'Brien, is there any goal action items that you have been thinking about or want to possibly discuss with city council?
Not at this time, Sharice, thanks.
Okay. All right, that leaves me, which one of the goals that I've been talking to Eric about, that Eric brought up as a possible goal that we can request, is master plan of the area between Coleman Park and the bridge. Can you explain? It's redoing that, correct? The kids, I have it on. Kids. Can you explain what that is and how it is that we could go about it, and if we could actually add it into a goal?
So the general plan, local coastal program update, and Scott, if I'm going astray here, jump in, but that progress is kind of winding down. The council's seen it a couple times. It's going to Coastal Commission. That gives you sort of the 30,000 foot overview of what the city is to do, 30,000, 20,000, kind of the upper and mid-level overview of where the city's going. The various master plans get into the gritty details of, like the waterfront master plan. It'll tell you, how high your building can be and how wide and all that kind of stuff. And and really gets into some more detail. And so the city has various master plans that are the next sort of add-ons to the general plan local coastal program, and the city will be, community development will be tackling those down the line. Right now, there is no rock master plan. There's a northern waterfront improvement plan that was looked at. It's probably been 10 years since anything's been done with it. It was just sort of a general conceptual overview of what people thought should happen between Coleman and the rock, more or less. So that's really all it is. And what we discussed is, that there's been a lot of different ideas that have been thrown out about the rock and what should be done out there. And while all of them may have some merits on their own, what really needs to happen out there is the whole thing needs to be master planned, and the city really develop a vision for what it wants to do out there. And that's what I discussed with you.
Okay, so what I want to add into this, as far as making it a possible goal that we request the city council put on our lap, is we need to think about all of the things that are happening in our community right now with Vistra, with the battery, with Vistra, and with wind. And then we got the RV parking. We have, things that have changed because of COVID, where people are doing walks and more people are walking past the barrier down to Widow Walls, and there's no services out there. It's not pedestrian friendly. We have a dilapidated old playground area at Coleman Park. Parents who used to be able to drive all the way out to Widow Walls now don't really have a place that's a safe little beach. So a lot of them are migrating to Coleman Park, which already has a deficit of parking. So what is this all going to look like? It's perfect time to do this, especially with Vistra coming in with money. What are our asks going to be? And don't we want to have a part in that process as the Harbor Advisory Board? We have other people talking about wayfinding signs and a separate entrance into the Embarcadero because of the traffic of people coming in and out of the rock. All of those things could actually be part of this master plan. And if we can try and put it on the laps of the city council as a priority, that we have a chance to make a big difference in what it looks like in that general area. So I don't think, knowing that we're going to come back in August and formulate an actual request, I'm not going to make a motion for that. I just want everybody to look in to what that is and what it represents and how it is, how we can actually have a voice, and all the different outreaches that we have, talk to them about what they want to see. And so in August, we can come back and we can keep the items that we have and maybe embellish them and tweak them in August, and then think about any other additions, including the one that I just mentioned, and what that looks like and how you feel about it. So Scott, was there anything else that we should accomplish as far as a group, or I can question?
No, you guys are great. So you reaffirm most of the existing action items and set the table for another discussion in August, which we'll take all that input and give it to city council during a community forum, probably at the end of August, early September. And as I don't know if I mentioned this, but council's his interest has peaked a lot in the waterfront. We've sort of got the wastewater project that was a 15-year saga, not necessarily in a rear view mirror. We're going through the pains of the construction part of it now, but a lot of the other stuff is now behind us. So able to start focusing on other things, and waterfront's at the top of the list. So I think a master plan process would be well received, as a recommendation.
Okay, great. Thank you. And so I'm going to open it up for public comment right now.
Oh, you already did it on this item,
So we don't need to do it again?
No.
Okay, and there's no action to be made, so we don't need to vote on anything, correct?
Unless you want to.
Nope.
All right.
Okay, so thank you, Scott. And he
Thank
might-
you. Now I'm going to depart. It was nice to see you all this evening.
Thank you so much.
Jeremiah, when are you leaving? I'm gonna get on that boat ride.
Middle of the month, we hope, but we got our fingers crossed.
All
You know
right.
how that goes, so
All right,
hopefully everything will go good.
good.
We'll see you in the fall if I don't see you before. I hope I
Sure.
see you before.
All right, sir. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, so last thing is B5, Harbor Advisory Board Member Outreach Assignments for Public Engagement Outreach. So what it looks like here, Eric, do you want to take this or what? Where did he go? Oh, there he is. He moved.
So, yeah, the Brady Bunch got rearranged when Scott left. So this is an item that I'll take. As you know, we assigned various members, or various members volunteered for community, what we called community outreach opportunities or assignments. And it was really identifying opportunities for members, have members to be liaisons to various groups and entities and help information flow and bring in ideas and whatnot. And so at the February 4th meeting this year, the Harbor Advisory Board voted to approve the list that I've got there on the first page of the staff report. And then first and second page, we've lost a couple members since that list was put together. Scott Mather, who had taken on state parks and Coast Guard Auxiliary, and Dana McClish, who's Cal Poly Sailing, Morro Bay Youth Foundation, and Central Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board. So you might reconsider those assignments and see if anybody wants to take those on. And then in addition, I included a list on there, A through G, of some potential, let's call them sort of groundbreaking questions or icebreaking questions that you might want to bring to your various groups or bodies to ask them and start the information flow. That isn't to say there'll be plenty of other opportunities for you to go to those bodies and ask them lots of other questions and get input from them. But this was, like, say, sort of an icebreaker. And are these the right questions? Number one. And number two, for anybody that's already gone out and canvassed their groups with these questions, we could consider that input, or at least verbalize it tonight and see where that goes.
Okie doke. So how do you want to do this? You have the two members that left.
Therese, I'd volunteer to take the state parks and Coast Guard.
And Coast Guard. Okay. And
Chris has his hand up.
oh, hi, Chris. I see you have your hand up. Would you like to add anything?
Did you expedite that, Mary?
I didn't.
About 51 years ago, I taught sailing at the Morro Bay Yacht Club, so I'll take that. I taught sailing for the city, so I'll take Dana's stuff here. I'll take it across the board.
Okay, wonderful. All right.
Okay, so we got that. That takes care of the ones that were still dangling.
Okay,
You want to go through the list, A through G, and
right.
if you got any discussion, input, questions on that kind of stuff?
Okay, so if you've read the questions, I know that there might be some grammar errors, grammatical errors or whatnot. So how about we do this? I go around the room and I ask each person if there's anything that they would change or add or delete. How about that? Starting with member O'Brien.
Yeah, thanks, Cherise. Yeah, you know, a lot of these I do normally. I mean, so a lot of this I do on a daily basis.
Right.
The Rotary and the Chamber, I've spoken 3 or 4 times at the Rotary, and I talk to the Chamber at least on a weekly basis, but and a lot of the other places too. And by the way, we are willing anytime, of course, I'll be leaving shortly, but I'm personally willing, and we'll find somebody in the organization. If somebody wants one of us to show up and give a talk, particularly schools and things like that, but anybody, you know, we go, like I said, go to the Rotary, we're always happy and always love to do schools and kids. Uh-oh, you're muted.
Yep. Did
Yeah.
you, do you want, so are these just good points and you're fine with them as is, or did you want to delete or add?
No, it's fine.
Okay, cool. All right, Member Witkowski. There,
I like these.
cool. All right, Member Vale.
I like them, and I think they'll generate other feedback items rather than trying to name everything specifically. Let the audience come back. So I like them.
All right, thank you. And Member Dowdy
And these are all good conversation starters.
and Member Meissen.
They're fine. They're not obligatory. They are great suggestions for starting a conversation. I would not change them.
Nice, thank you. Okay, so next up, we did not have a motion, so I don't have to open, or anyway, so the next thing is I'm gonna open it for public comment just because I keep forgetting that. So I'm just gonna open it up for public comment, and then I'm gonna ask anybody, and then I'm gonna go around the room again and ask if anybody was able to get any information and that wanted to pass it on to this meeting. So let's open public comment. Anthony, do we have anybody in the queue with their hand raised?
Thank you, Chair Hansen. I do not see any raised hands in the queue.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close public comment, and then I'm going to go around in the same, I'm going to try and go in the same order. Is there anything from any of your outreach groups that you want to mention this evening before we end? Member O'Brien.
No.
Okay, Member Witkowski.
No.
You just started, so no. Okay. Member Vale.
There's a tentative plan when Quota starts their meetings in person. That I'll be speaking with them. And then coincidentally, 2 weeks ago, I spoke to Rotary in Napomo. It was kind of fun, but I got them to, in jest, but I got them to promise to come visit Morro Bay. And that's it for now.
Okay, nice, thank you. Member Dowdy?
Nothing new from my my outreach.
Okay. And Member Meissen?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Okay, so lastly is me, and I did mention a lot of my feedback that I got earlier on in the evening. I think I just really liked asking the question about what it is that that your group potential roles to relate to the harbor. It's kind of weirded a little funny. I don't know if I would. That's another. I turned off my thing. Anyway, asking them how it is that they can help, and it was just a really awesome thing to get other people's creative ideas. And I think that if anybody wants to ask that one, it's a good one. With that, there is no motions. We already opened public comment, nothing to comment on from the public now. And we're gonna go on to the next thing unless somebody wants to tell me I'm doing it wrong. We don't have anything to vote on. Oh, we do, actually. We can, we can motion to keep the questions as is. I motion to keep the questions as stated.
Do we
I
need
so
that?
move.
Perfect. And then Lori, can we have a roll call or?
Second, oh,
Yeah, can you clarify who seconded and who stated the motion?
Lynn seconded.
I
No,
stated the
no,
motion and Lynn seconded.
No,
sorry.
I did not.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay.
I did not second the motion. I said, do we really need to have a motion on this? These are suggestions, staff suggestions in no particular order as follows. Do we need to have a motion? These are ideas that we can use, each one of us, in approaching the organization to which we've been assigned. I don't think we need a motion. Thank
No,
you.
I think Lynn is correct. I think, I mean, you're going to answer, you're going to answer groups and talking about all sorts of different things. And I wouldn't want to be construed that this is your list and you get confined to this list. No, it's here's some
No.
suggestions. You can ask whatever you need to, ask whatever you want and get the information flowing.
Okay, so we don't need a motion. We don't need a roll call vote. We already did public comment. So we will end this.
So you do need, so somebody made a motion, somebody seconded it. We need to withdraw it and the second so that it's not hanging out there in space.
I
So
withdraw my motion.
There
Jeremiah?
was no second.
You sure?
I did not second it,
Okay, Oh.
so there was no motion.
okay. Then it's gone. Chris withdrew it anyhow.
Right.
Okay. So we're gonna move on to future agenda items. Does anyone have any suggestions for future agenda items? Raise of hand. Seeing none, we will move on to the board's primary, nope, and not all future items. So I know that I messed up on one thing earlier. I did not approve the minutes from last month's meeting.
We didn't have minutes on the agenda. You're good.
Okay, good, because I just thought about that. I'm like, oh, darn. Okay, so I can adjourn the meeting and the next meeting date will be August. Lori, what's the date and time of that?
I think it's the 5th. Let me look. August 5th at 5:30.
Okay, August 5th is the next meeting and we are adjourned.
I'll make a
Thank you
motion that we
for-
adjourn the meeting.
I'll
Don't
second.
need a motion.
Okay,
Hey, everybody have a good summer. We'll see you
All
soon.
in favor? Aye.
Aye.
bye.
Hey, Jeremiah, catch some fish.
Okay, Chris, we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Have a good summer.
We'll do our best without you.
Oh, yeah, that'll be easy.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.